The courtroom hums with whispers and confidence. She leans back in her chair, wearing a smirk like the case is already hers. Then she says it, loud and dismissive. "You're small time." A few people laugh, encouraged, and she adds another disrespectful remark, pushing it too far. Judge Judy doesn't react. No anger, no warning. She simply looks down at the file and turns a page. The room shifts. The air grows heavy. Then Judge Judy slowly looks up and asks one quiet question. And in that moment, everyone knows what comes next will change everything. But before we jump in, tell me, where are you watching from? And don't forget to hit that subscribe button. The room is still vibrating from that one quiet question. Judge Judy hasn't moved. She hasn't blinked. The only sound is the soft, distant hum of the air vent above the bench. The politician's daughter shifts back in her seat, suddenly less certain, her smirk flickering like a candle in a draft, but not extinguished. Not yet. The cameras adjust their focus. A slow, creeping zoom captures the tension shaping her jaw. For the first time, she senses the weight of the room tilting against her. Judge Judy taps the file once. A sharp, crisp click echoes like a warning shot. "Let's begin," she says. No anger, no theatrics. Just that measured, judicial calm that has dismantled far bigger egos than hers. The defendant leans forward again, regaining her confidence. "This is ridiculous," she mutters loudly enough for the microphones to catch. "My father told me this whole TV court setup is—" Judy raises one eyebrow, a tiny movement that freezes the entire courtroom in place. "Did he now?" she asks. Her tone so soft it cuts deeper than any shout could. The daughter hesitates. Her eyes search the gallery for backup, but all she finds are people watching her unravel in real time. She straightens her blazer, as if tailoring her posture can restore her authority. "Well, he just said this wasn't exactly the—" "Careful," Judy interrupts. Not harshly, not unkindly, simply, decisively. The victim, a quiet small business owner with tired eyes and a stack of documents gripped tightly to their chest, steps forward to the lectern. Their voice trembles as they introduce themselves, but they speak with sincerity, the kind that carries more weight than power or political lineage. Judy listens, really listens. Her gaze alternates between the victim's earnest face and the defendant's growing discomfort. With each detail of the alleged scam, the missed payments, the false promises, the damage to the victim's livelihood, the daughter's expression hardens defensively, not in denial, entitlement. She finally snaps, "I don't know why we're even entertaining this. They're exaggerating because of who I am." A few people exhale sharply. Someone shifts in disbelief. Judge Judy does not react. She simply lowers her reading glasses to the tip of her nose, inspecting the defendant as though studying a creature that has just revealed its true species. "I see," she says. "So your position is that the complaint is fabricated?" "It's petty," the daughter fires back. "This entire thing is beneath me." Judy closes the file. The sound is soft, but the meaning lands like a gavel. She slides one particular sheet forward with her fingertip. It gleams under the harsh courtroom light, a document printed with meticulous precision. Then Judy tilts her head, eyes narrowing slightly, and asks, "Did you think we wouldn't find this?" The document lies between them like a detonator. The defendant swallows, her confidence wobbling as the camera tightens on her face, a perfect freeze frame of someone realizing the ground beneath them isn't solid. Judge Judy taps the page with one fingernail. "This," she says calmly, "is the contract you swore didn't exist." A ripple moves through the courtroom, soft gasps, shoes shifting, someone whispering, "She's done." The politician's daughter leans in, squinting at the page as if it might vanish if she stares hard enough. That's not mine," she blurts out. "It's fake, or incomplete, or something." Judy lifts one eyebrow. "Something?" Defendant. "My signature isn't, it looks, why would you even, this is ridiculous." Judy doesn't interrupt. She lets the defendant drown in her own contradictions, observing her with the kind of unblinking patience that feels far more dangerous than anger. The victim, standing at the lectern, clasps their hands together, hope flickering for the first time since entering this courtroom. "State your claims clearly," Judy instructs. Is this your signature or not? The daughter's eyes dart to the cameras again. She knows she's playing to an audience, but the performance isn't landing anymore. Her usual arrogance has curdled into something thinner, something nervous. I'm saying, she insists, I never agreed to any terms with that business. There's no way that contract is legitimate. The victim steps forward, voice steadier than before. You emailed me this contract directly. I signed my portion the same day. When you didn't deliver, I sent 3 follow-ups and… Enough, the daughter waves dismissively. You're just upset because you mismanaged your own business, and now you're trying to blame me. Judge Judy's head tilts, and the lighting shifts, bright courtroom fluorescence hitting the polished wood like a surgical theater. She lifts the contract and flips back to the final page. Tell me, she says, why does your digital signature log match this timestamp? She slides a second sheet forward, a system-generated record. The defendant freezes, completely. The cameras catch it in a slow, devastating close-up, the tightening jaw, the flicker of panic, the instinctive glance toward the exit, as though influence, privilege, or a father's name might suddenly burst through the doors and rescue her. But nothing comes. Judy folds her hands. This file was pulled from an independent archive, one you cannot alter. The daughter's voice goes thin. You had no right to access that. Judy replies softly. I have every right to verify evidence placed in front of me. The victim exhales shakily, not triumphantly, but with the relief of someone finally being heard. Judy turns toward the bailiff. Bring in the witness, she says. The daughter jerks upright. What witness? There's no witness. Nobody else was involved. Judy doesn't answer. A door at the side of the courtroom opens with a slow theatrical creak. Every head turns. The person who steps inside is someone the defendant absolutely did not expect. The door hasn't even finished opening when the defendant's face drains of color. A tall figure steps through, calm, composed, carrying a single manila envelope as if it weighs nothing, though the truth inside could crush anyone. The courtroom leans forward collectively. Judge Judy doesn't look surprised. She simply nods once. State your name for the record. The witness clears their throat. Daniel Reeves, former aide to Congressman Halden. The father. The name lands like a hammer. The defendant almost chokes on air. What? What are you doing here? Her voice cracks, small and strangled, a far cry from the arrogant confidence she arrived with. Daniel takes the stand, refusing to make eye contact with her. I was subpoenaed, a subtle detail that Judge Judy lets hang for a moment, allowing the courtroom to savor what it means. This wasn't a surprise to Judy, only to her. The defendant slams her hand on the table. This is ridiculous. My father would never. Judy slices through the noise. Your father isn't on trial. You are. The daughter recoils as if slapped. Daniel opens the envelope slowly, methodically. I worked in the congressman's office for 6 years, he begins, and I handled several of his daughter's professional engagements. The emphasis on professional draws a murmur. The daughter's eyes narrow sharply. Don't you dare! Judy lifts a hand. Silence. Daniel continues. Ms. Halden frequently used her father's connections to secure business deals, some legitimate, some questionable. Another ripple through the gallery, louder this time. The defendant forces a laugh, brittle, desperate. Oh, please. He's a disgruntled ex-employee. He was fired. Daniel finally meets her gaze. I resigned, because I refused to keep cleaning up your messes. She freezes. He turns back toward Judy. This particular contract, he says, touching the file on the bench, was negotiated entirely by her. She was warned not to misrepresent her authority again. Warned, Judy asks, her tone deceptively light. Yes, multiple times. The defendant shakes her head violently. None of this is true. He's twisting things because he hates me. He's obsessed. Stop. Judy's voice cuts clean, leaving no room for oxygen or excuses. Mr. Reeves, did you bring documentation? Daniel nods. I did. Emails, internal memos, timestamps, digital signatures. The list goes on, stacking like stones on the defendant's chest. He places a stack of neatly printed screenshots onto the evidence tray. The camera zooms in, her words, her tone, her unmistakable arrogance preserved in black and white. One screenshot shows her saying, "I'll handle this, nobody. They're lucky I'm even giving them attention." Another, "Dad will make this disappear if it goes south." The defendant lunges forward, hands shaking. "Those are taken out of context, Judy. We'll decide that." Daniel hesitates, then adds quietly, "There's one more thing the court needs to see." He reaches into the envelope again. The room holds its breath. He pulls out a small USB drive, and the defendant's eyes widen with unmistakable fear. The USB drive glints under the courtroom lights, small, ordinary, almost innocent. But the way the defendant reacts, it's as if Daniel just placed a live grenade on the evidence tray. Her chair scrapes backward. "No, absolutely not. You can't use that." Judge Judy doesn't look at her. She simply gestures for the bailiff to retrieve the drive. A subtle wave of murmurs rolls through the gallery, anticipation thick, electric. The bailiff plugs it into the monitor. The screen flickers. A folder appears, labeled clearly, "Halden, Private Archive." The defendant lunges forward. "This is illegal. You stole that. You can't sit." Judy's voice is so sharp it snaps the room still. Daniel folds his hands calmly. "This drive contains internal communications she sent from her personal and work accounts. She gave me access originally so I could help manage her scheduling. When I resigned, I archived everything for protection." Judy nods. "Prudent." The defendant is shaking her head rapidly, breath shallow. "Those messages aren't real. They're fabricated. He's framing me." Judy doesn't even acknowledge the claim. Instead, she clicks on the first file. A screenshot fills the monitor, her email to Daniel months earlier. "Handle the small vendor. If they complain, remind them whose daughter I am." The gallery gasps. Judge Judy's eyes lift slowly toward the defendant. "Care to explain this?" she asks. The defendant's mouth opens, then closes. She swallows, then tries a weak smile. That was a joke, obviously. Humor, sarcasm. Judy clicks the next file. An audio clip loads. The room goes silent as her own voice plays. "People like them don't matter. I do. And if they try anything, Dad will shut them down. It's small-time trash. Beneath me." The defendant slams her palms on the table. "That was edited." "Really?" Judy replies, voice cool. "Then you won't mind if we have it authenticated." The daughter freezes. The victim watches, hands trembling, not with fear, but with a rising sense of justice finally taking shape. Judy scrolls through more files. A message bragging about crushing nobodies. A thread mocking the victim's financial struggles. A voice memo where she laughs about ignoring the contract she never signed. An email suggesting the victim should be grateful for exposure. Every new reveal strips another layer from her confidence. By the fourth file, she's sitting stiffly, chin quivering, eyes darting anywhere but the screen. By the eighth, her mascara is smudged at the corners. By the 10th, she whispers, "Turn it off, please." But Judy does not. Not yet. Instead, she leans back, tapping the file with one deliberate finger. "Your digital trail," she says, "shows not just negligence, but intent." The defendant stiffens. "Intent for what?" Judy doesn't answer. She lifts one of the printed transcripts, eyes narrowing. "It's interesting," she says, "because this next piece isn't just written." The room tightens like a held breath. "It's your voice." Judge Judy cues up a recording, and the daughter's face drains completely as the first few seconds begin to play. The first sound in the recording isn't her voice, it's laughter, sharp, careless, dripping with entitlement. The defendant flinches as though struck. The audience leans toward the monitor, collectively bracing. Then her voice comes through, unmistakable. "Judge Judy? Please, she's small time. I'll walk circles around that old courtroom dinosaur." A stunned silence sweeps across the room. The daughter's breathing turns shallow. That's taken out of, but the audio keeps going, louder, clearer, more damning. "It'll be cute, honestly, a little TV performance. I'll smile, pretend to care, and Dad can sweep up whatever crumbs fall out afterward." Someone in the gallery gasps openly. The victim bows their head, a gut punch of humiliation finally being validated. Judge Judy doesn't blink, doesn't flinch, doesn't even shift in her seat. She stares at the defendant with a gaze so calm it feels surgical. The defendant lunges toward the monitor, voice breaking. "Stop it! Turn it off! This isn't fair! You don't know the context!" "Sit down." The command cracks through the room like thunder. She doesn't sit immediately. Fear battles ego in her eyes. But the bailiff takes one step forward and she drops into her chair, trembling. The recording continues. "People like that vendor don't matter. If they're struggling, that's on them. Not my problem. Not worth my time." The victim squeezes their folded hands so tightly their knuckles whiten, but their eyes stay open, because truth, even when painful, is still truth. Judy finally pauses the recording. Silence. Heavy, suffocating silence. "Do you deny," Judy asks, voice like steel wrapped in velvet, "that this is you speaking?" The daughter's lips part, but no words come out. Her throat works around a breath she can't swallow. "Because," Judy continues, "I have 3 independent audio analysts prepared to authenticate this recording." Her eyes widen. 3? "Yes, 3. I anticipated you might challenge reality." A faint ripple of laughter moves through the gallery, not mocking, just stunned by Judy's precision. The defendant's facade collapses another inch. "You're twisting everything. You're making me look like..." "Like what?" Judy asks softly. "Like someone who lies, someone who bullies, someone who abuses power?" The daughter freezes, emotions flickering violently across her face. Denial, anger, desperation, shame. Daniel, the witness, watches her quietly, not gloating. Sad. Judy turns to the victim. "Thank you for your patience," she says, voice gentler now. "Your case is being heard." The victim nods, a visible release of a burden they've carried too long. Then, Judy closes the folder with a single, finalizing click. "Now," she says, shifting her gaze back to the defendant, "there is a bigger problem that you haven't considered." The defendant stiffens. What bigger problem?" Judy leans forward, her expression unreadable. "Your actions here conflict directly with statements you made, under oath." The gallery reacts in a wave of shock. Judy lifts 2 documents, and they are not identical. The 2 documents sit on the bench like mirror images until you look closely. The courtroom senses it instantly. Something is off, something big. Judge Judy slides the first document toward the defendant. "This," she says, "is the affidavit you filed 3 months ago regarding this dispute." She slides the second one forward. "And this was submitted last week." The daughter stares at them, confused at first, until her eyes begin scanning the lines. Her pupils shrink, her breath catches, the cracks in her composure fracture just a little wider. "These aren't the same," Judy says plainly. "Care to explain why?" The gallery murmurs like a rising tide. The defendant forces out a laugh, brittle and desperate. "It's clerical differences. My assistants handle these things. I don't personally draft them." Judy leans back in her chair. "And yet both are signed. By you." The daughter blinks rapidly, scrambling for footing. "I sign hundreds of forms. I can't keep track of every..." "Let me help you," Judy says, picking up the first affidavit. Her tone is calm, almost gentle, which somehow makes the moment far more dangerous. "In your original statement, you claim you never engaged in any contractual negotiation with the plaintiff." She lifts the second affidavit. "But in this one, you say you discontinued negotiations due to concerns about professionalism." The contradiction hangs in the air like smoke. The victim watches with wide, emotional eyes, finally seeing accountability form in real time. The defendant's voice shivers with frustration. "This is being blown out of proportion. It doesn't mean anything. People phrase things differently." "Not under oath," Judy cuts in sharply. A hush sweeps across the room. Daniel, still seated at the witness stand, shifts slightly, his expression complicated. He's not enjoying this. He's witnessing the inevitable collapse of someone who spent a lifetime believing collapse wasn't possible. Judy turns her gaze back to the daughter. "These documents were not clerical. They were legal and contradictory legal statements." She pauses, letting the weight settle on the defendant's shaking shoulders. "Implied deception." The daughter's face reddens. "I wasn't lying. I just didn't want all the details public, okay? My father's office reviews these before I submit them. Sometimes they change phrasing or..." "Oh?" Judy's eyebrows rise. So now you're stating your father's office-edited sworn documents? The defendant freezes mid-breath, realizing what she's just implied. The gallery reacts with a collective stunned inhale. She tries to backtrack. I didn't mean, that's not what You're twisting my words! Judy's gavel snaps down, one sharp, soul-jarring crack. No, you twisted them long before you arrived in this courtroom. The daughter goes silent. Judy folds her hands. You're standing on increasingly fragile ground, and before this foundation collapses entirely, I'm giving you one chance to correct your narrative. The daughter looks around the room, searching for an ally, a lifeline, a door she can walk through to escape the moment. But there is nothing. Only truth. Only consequences. Judy leans in slightly, her voice low, controlled, and lethal. Would you like to revise your story before I proceed? The defendant's silence stretches so long the courtroom air feels thick enough to touch. Her eyes dart from the documents to the judge to the cameras, searching for a version of the story she can say out loud without detonating her entire defense. Finally, she inhales shakily and begins the rewrite. I may have misremembered some of the details, she says, voice trembling behind the facade of control. This whole thing has been overwhelming. I didn't intentionally mislead anyone. Judge Judy doesn't move. She sits very still, observing her the way a surgeon studies an X-ray before making the first incision. What, exactly, Judy asks, each word clean and sharp. Did you misremember? The daughter winces. The timeline, mostly, and maybe the wording. But the essence of my statements is the same. Daniel, still at the witness stand, lowers his gaze. The victim tightens their grip on the lectern, bracing for whatever version of truth, or lies, is about to spill out. Let's test that, Judy says calmly. She lifts the first affidavit. Here, you say you had no involvement with the plaintiff. The second, and here, you say you cut off negotiations due to unprofessional behavior. The daughter swallows. That's not contradictory. I meant I was never seriously involved. Maybe I had initial conversations, but... So you were involved, Judy presses. No, not in a meaningful way. They weren't worth... She stops, too late. The gallery reacts with a low, disbelieving rumble. Judy's eyebrow rises. Not worth your time? The defendant's voice cracks. That's not what I meant. It's what you said. The daughter's breathing quickens, panic rising through the cracks of her collapsing confidence. You're twisting everything I say. No, Judy replies. I'm clarifying everything you avoid. The defendant's composure fractures. Fine. You want the truth? I didn't take them seriously because their business is tiny. I didn't think the contract mattered. I thought... She cuts herself off again. You thought, Judy finishes, that your status excused you. Her lips tremble. I was under pressure. I didn't want another minor deal reflecting badly on my family. I just wanted it handled quietly. Daniel speaks softly for the first time since his testimony began. That's what I told you the problem was. You kept pretending the rules didn't apply to you. The daughter snaps, Stay out of this! But her voice breaks halfway through the command. Judy leans forward. Ms. Halden, listen to yourself. Every new explanation contradicts your last one. Every attempt to dodge responsibility ties you tighter to the truth. The defendant's shoulders slump. Her voice shrinks to a whisper. I didn't mean for any of this to get this big. Judy responds gently, almost sadly. Trouble doesn't grow because of size. It grows because of arrogance. The daughter's eyes fill, not with tears, but with the dawning realization that she has run out of maneuvers. Judy lifts one more sheet of paper. This, she says, is where your story truly collapses. The defendant blinks, heart visibly pounding. What? What is that? Judy holds the document just out of her reach. It's the financial record that connects you directly to the payments you claimed never existed. The defendant stares at the document in Judge Judy's hand, like it's a snake poised to strike. She doesn't blink, doesn't breathe. Even the cameras seem to stop moving. Judy sets the paper down gently, almost kindly, which somehow makes it feel even more dangerous. This, she says, tapping the page, is a transfer authorization you claimed never existed. The daughter shakes her head immediately. No, that's impossible. I couldn't have... But Judy slides it closer. Her signature stares back at her, clear, confident, unmistakable. The gallery erupts into whispers, the air buzzing with disbelief. The defendant recoils as if physically struck. That's forged. It has to be. I didn't approve any payments. Daniel clears his throat. That signature was verified through your office's authentication system. The daughter's head snaps toward him. You don't know what you're talking about, Judy cuts in. Ms. Halden, the account this money came from. She pauses, letting the words hang in the room like a guillotine blade waiting to drop. Is linked directly to a discretionary political fund your father oversees. A collective gasp sweeps across the courtroom. The daughter's voice cracks. I didn't touch anything from that fund. I wasn't allowed to. Judy folds her hands. And yet, here we are. Her breathing becomes ragged. No, someone set me up. Someone's targeting me. This is political. This whole case is political. Judy remains unfazed. Politics didn't sign your name. The victim watches, wide-eyed, hands trembling, but now with hope rather than fear. Judy lifts another page. This transfer was made 4 days after you received the plaintiff's final request for payment, the same day you sent Mr. Reeves a message saying you would make this disappear. I didn't mean that, the daughter screams, voice cracking. It was a figure of speech. Judy raises her eyebrows. Is theft also a figure of speech? The daughter collapses back into her chair. The arrogance is gone. What remains is something raw, unprepared, unraveling. Daniel speaks softly. You used that fund because you thought no one would question you. She whirls on him. You don't know anything. You're just trying to ruin me because... Her voice breaks under the weight of a truth she doesn't want but can no longer outrun. Judy leans forward, gaze sharp. Ms. Halden, you didn't think this document existed because you didn't think anyone would ever look for it. The gallery quiets, still. Holding its breath, Judy continues. But the moment your father's office caught the attempt to reverse the transaction, they alerted the network administrators. That's how this ended up in discovery. The daughter blinks. Reverse? I didn't reverse anything. Oh, you didn't, Judy says calmly. But someone did. Shock ripples through the courtroom. Someone tried to undo her mistake. The defendant's whole body tightens. Who? Judy doesn't answer immediately. Instead, she turns her gaze toward the side of the courtroom, toward a producer standing stiffly just off camera. The room shifts as everyone notices him. He clears his throat. Your Honor, we just received a call. Judy's eyes narrow. The daughter's jaw drops. It's from her father. The courtroom shifts as the producer steps forward, his expression tight, uncertain, like he's carrying something radioactive. Judge Judy doesn't turn her head. She already knows where this is going. The defendant, however, grips the edges of her chair as though bracing for impact. Your Honor, the producer says carefully, we just received a call from Congressman Halden's office. A collective murmur ripples across the gallery. The daughter's eyes widen with desperate hope, finally the lifeline she's been silently waiting for. Judy exhales softly. Not relief, not frustration, just inevitability. And what, she asks, did the congressman have to say? The producer swallows. He requested to speak with you, privately. The daughter lights up. Yes, of course he did, finally. Can we take a recess? I need to... No, Judy says instantly. The syllable slices through the air like a razor. The daughter freezes in mid-rise. Judy turns to the producer. Put the call on speaker. A collective gasp. Even the bailiff looks up from his corner. The producer hesitates. Ma'am, he insisted. Speaker, Judy repeats. There's no argument. Moments later, the courtroom is filled with the tinny sound of a line connecting. A beat. Then, Judge Judith, a voice says, smooth, controlled, unmistakably political. This is Congressman Halden. The daughter straightens, wiping the panic from her face as though preparing for a photo op. The victim grips the lectern harder, unsure of what storm is about to hit. Judy folds her hands, gaze steady. Congressman, this is a public proceeding. You may speak. He clears his throat. Yes. Well, I'm sure we can agree this entire matter has gotten out of hand. My daughter is under immense pressure, and I'm certain a reasonable resolution can be reached without unnecessary exposure. The gallery reacts. Soft scoffs, shocked whispers, heads shaking. The daughter nods eagerly at the phone. "Dad, tell her. Quiet." Judy's command shuts her down instantly. The congressman continues, "If there are documents or recordings causing confusion, perhaps we could, how shall I put this, review them informally. Off the record." Judy blinks once, slowly. "Congressman," she says, "are you attempting to influence a legal proceeding?" A long silence, the kind that feels like the ground pulling away beneath everyone's feet. Finally, "Of course not," he replies, far too quickly. "I'm simply suggesting we handle this with dignity, given the public nature of your program and the importance of my office." Judy leans forward, voice dropping to a dangerous calm. "Your office is irrelevant here. Your daughter's actions are not." The daughter's face collapses. The congressman raises his voice slightly. "Judge, I must insist you reconsider the angle of this case. I would prefer this not escalate to—" Judy cuts him off with a sharp final word. "No." The silence that follows is total. Judy continues, "You will not intervene, you will not intimidate, and you will absolutely not rewrite reality on behalf of your daughter." The phone crackles with stunned disbelief. The daughter's mouth hangs open. This is not the rescue she imagined. Judy gives the producer a nod. The call disconnects. The judgment in the room becomes a physical weight, pressing down on the defendant until she sinks into her seat like she's falling through it. "Congressman Halden," Judy says dryly, "has just made matters significantly worse." The daughter whispers, What do you mean?" Judy lifts her eyes, sharp and unflinching. "Because the next witness I've called worked in his office and knows exactly what you were instructed to do." The side door opens before anyone even exhales from the shock of the congressman's failed intervention. A new figure steps in, steady posture, measured breath, eyes sharpened by years of political survival. The defendant's entire body tenses. She recognizes them instantly. Judy nods. "Please state your name for the record." The witness approaches the stand with a quiet confidence. "Eleanor Cross, senior aide to Congressman Halden." The gallery murmurs. The daughter's throat tightens. "Eleanor, what are you doing here?" Eleanor doesn't answer her. She looks only at Judge Judy. "Ms. Cross," Judy says, "were you contacted by the court regarding this matter?" "Yes," Eleanor replies. "I was asked to provide clarification on Ms. Halden's communications and actions related to the plaintiff and to her father's office." The daughter slams her palm against the table. "This is ridiculous. She has no right to speak about private office business." Judy turns her head just enough to silence her with a single piercing look. "Ms. Cross," Judy continues, "were you aware of the contract in question?" Eleanor nods. "I was. I reviewed the early drafts she sent out." The daughter jolts. "I didn't send you anything." "Yes, you did," Eleanor says, her tone sorrowful rather than confrontational. "You asked me to look it over quickly because you didn't want your father to see it at the time." The gallery reacts with a chorus of soft gasps. Judy taps her pen. "Why didn't she want him to see it?" Eleanor exhales, shoulders dropping. "Because she knew using his office name without permission was against protocol. She said the deal was beneath his time, but good enough to boost numbers." The victim's jaw trembles, not in anger, but in stunned understanding of how little they meant to her. The daughter stands abruptly. "You're lying. You've always been jealous." "Sit," Judy orders. She sits. Eleanor continues. 3 weeks later, she came to me again. She wanted to know how to handle the vendor after she missed her payment deadline. She joked that she could ghost them like everyone else." A ripple of disbelief moves across the courtroom. Judy's stare sharpens. "Did she mention the discretionary fund?" Eleanor hesitates, just for a heartbeat. The daughter sees it. "Don't," she whispers, voice breaking. Eleanor's expression softens. "I'm sorry." She turns back to Judy. "She told me she had access to the fund. She said she'd borrow from it and fix the paperwork later." The courtroom erupts. Outrage, shock, whispers colliding in a rising storm until the bailiff calls for order. The daughter's entire facade crumbles. "You weren't supposed to tell them that," she whispers, shaking. "Dad said no one could ever trace—" She freezes. Too late. Judy leans forward, eyes narrowing. "Trace? What exactly?" The defendant cups her hands over her mouth. Horrified at the words that escaped, Eleanor lifts the final document she brought, a printed record, time-stamped, linked, undeniable. Your Honor, she says quietly, this is the ledger showing the exact transfer she authorized. The daughter lets out a strangled noise, half cry, half denial. Eleanor isn't finished. And there's something else, something she told me the day after the transfer. A beat. She said no one, including her father, would ever find out. The gallery explodes into murmurs again. Judy's voice slices through the noise. What else did she say, Ms. Cross? Eleanor's eyes lower. She said she wasn't afraid because she believed she was untouchable. The word untouchable hangs in the courtroom air like gunpowder, dangerous, flammable, waiting for one spark. Judge Judy leans back slowly, eyes fixed on the defendant as if dissecting her without a scalpel. Untouchable, Judy repeats, her voice low but carrying the full weight of a gavel. Is that truly what you believed? The defendant presses trembling fingers against her temples. She looks smaller now, not physically but morally, the way someone shrinks when their armor falls away. I wasn't saying, she swallows. It was just a phrase, Judy's voice sharpens. Your entire defense hinges on phrases. Let's talk about actions. She lifts the ledger Eleanor provided. The harsh courtroom lights reflect off the page like an interrogation lamp. Why, Judy asks, did you access a political discretionary fund to make this payment? The daughter opens her mouth, then closes it. Her throat tightens visibly. The victim watches her carefully, equal parts wounded and curious, as if finally glimpsing the human underneath the arrogance. Eleanor shifts in the witness chair. She told me she used the fund because she didn't want the failed deal traced back to her directly. The daughter explodes. I never said that. Yes, you did, Eleanor replies softly. You were scared your father would find out you signed a contract without approval. The defendant's breathing becomes erratic. Her eyes dart to the gallery, then the cameras, then the floor, anywhere but the growing mountain of evidence. Judge Judy's tone drops to a cold, precise calm. You misused political funds to cover a personal mistake. That is not pressure. That is not confusion. That is motive. The courtroom murmurs erupt again, but Judy's gavel brings instant silence. Ms. Halden, Judy continues, why did you believe you could access this money without consequences? The defendant slowly raises her eyes. Fear, shame, and something deeper, exhaustion. I didn't think it would be noticed, she whispers. Judy narrows her gaze. Why not? A beat of silence. Then the daughter breaks. Because it wasn't the first time. The gallery gasps so loudly the bailiff instinctively steps forward. Daniel looks stunned. Eleanor's eyes widen with regret. The victim's hand flies to their mouth. But Judy stays perfectly still. How many times? She asks. The daughter wipes a tear with the back of her hand, an action that seems foreign for someone who built her world on supremacy. I don't know, she whispers. A few, maybe more. I thought I could pay it back before anyone saw. Judy studies her carefully. Who taught you that this was acceptable? Your father? The daughter hesitates. This is the moment. The truth sharpens in her eyes. No, she says, voice cracking under its own sincerity. He doesn't even know. No one told me I could. I just... A long, trembling exhale. I told myself. The courtroom stills, and Judy sees it. Not defiance, not arrogance, but a frightened young woman whose entitlement wasn't inherited. It was manufactured inside her own mind. Judy folds her hands slowly. Why would you do that to yourself? The daughter's chin quivers. Because I was terrified of being ordinary. A chilling silence sweeps the room. Judy leans in, her eyes soften, just a fraction. Then understand this clearly, she says. The person you've been hiding from is yourself. The courtroom feels different now, not louder, not calmer, but heavier, like the very air is acknowledging that something inside the defendant has cracked beyond repair. The daughter sits perfectly still, not out of confidence this time, but because any movement might shatter what little composure she has left. Judge Judy watches her with a measured silence, the kind that isn't punishment, but reflection. Ms. Halden, Judy says quietly, look at me. It takes a moment before the daughter obeys. Her eyes are swollen. Her confidence, once the sharpest blade in the room, is now a fragile, trembling outline of the person she pretended to be. You said you did this because you were afraid of being ordinary, Judy continues. Explain that. The daughter swallows, struggling for air. I grew up in a house where everything was a performance, she says softly. Appearances, reputation, legacy. I wasn't allowed to fail, even once. I thought if I acted certain enough, loud enough, important enough, then no one would see how small I felt inside. The victim shifts gently, their anger dissolving into something closer to human understanding. Daniel's expression softens too, the hurt in his eyes replaced with quiet empathy. Eleanor looks away, jaw tight, not in judgment, but in mourning for someone she once tried to guide. The daughter continues, voice cracking in the middle. When I made mistakes, I panicked. I covered them up because I didn't want to be the disappointment. I didn't want my father to look at me and see someone who didn't deserve his name. A tear escapes, despite her attempt to blink it back. I thought, if I looked powerful, people would treat me like I mattered. Judy listens without interruption, her face an unreadable blend of authority and something softer, deeper. Finally she asks, and did they? No, the daughter whispers. They were afraid of me, but no one respected me. The gallery is silent, not with condemnation, but with the quiet recognition that they are witnessing not just a downfall, but an awakening. Judy leans back. Power without integrity earns fear, not respect. The daughter nods slowly. I know that now. Her voice trembles with something unfamiliar, humility. I hurt people because I was trying to protect some fantasy version of myself. But all I did was break the real one. The victim steps forward, voice gentle. I didn't want to destroy you, they say. I just wanted fairness. I just wanted you to see that what you did mattered. The daughter's shoulders collapse inward, the weight of her choices finally settling. I'm sorry, she whispers. Not because I got caught, but because I finally see the mess I made. Judge Judy takes a long breath, her eyes thoughtful, even compassionate. Awareness, she says, is the first step. Accountability is the next. The daughter nods, defeated, but perhaps for the first time, honest. Judy lifts a new folder, its pages crisp, its contents decisive. Before I deliver consequences, she says, there is one more truth you need to hear, and it has nothing to do with punishment. The daughter looks up, terrified and hopeful all at once. Judy opens the folder. This is what comes after illusion. The folder in Judge Judy's hands is unassuming, thin, light, almost delicate, but the defendant looks at it as if it contains the last verdict on who she is allowed to become. Judy opens it slowly, letting the anticipation sink into the room like rain into dry soil. Inside, there are only two documents, no accusations, no recordings, no financial trails, just truth. Ms. Halden, Judy begins, this isn't more evidence, it's perspective. The defendant stiffens, confused. This, Judy says, tapping the first page, is a written statement from your father's office from 2 years ago. The daughter's heart stutters. My father? What does it say? Judy reads, voice steady and unembellished. My daughter is capable, but she struggles under pressure. She wants to impress everyone, including me. I fear she carries burdens she never had to. The daughter blinks rapidly, fighting tears. She's never heard him say anything close to this, not to her, not to anyone. Judy places the page aside. This, she continues, lifting the second sheet, is the plaintiff's written statement submitted before this case began. The victim straightens, surprised. Judy reads, I don't want to destroy her. I just want my life back. I want her to understand what she did so she doesn't do it to someone else. A soft, aching hush falls over the courtroom. The defendant's breath shatters. She covers her mouth, shoulders trembling, not from fear this time, but from something deeper, the shock of being seen as more than the persona she weaponized. She looks at the victim, and for the first time, she doesn't see an obstacle or a threat. She sees a human being she hurt. I didn't know, she whispers, voice cracking. Judy nods once carefully. Because arrogance blinds you, fear blinds you, ego blinds you, but truth, she taps the folder gently, truth releases you. The defendant wipes her cheeks. She doesn't bother hiding the tears anymore. "I never meant to ruin your life," she whispers to the victim. "I was so focused on protecting mine that I didn't even think about yours." The victim swallows, emotion thickening their voice. "All I ever wanted was acknowledgement, that you knew it mattered." The daughter nods, trembling. "It mattered. You mattered. I just couldn't see it then." She turns back to Judge Judy, voice small but whole. "What happens now?" Judy studies her, the girl who walked in wearing entitlement like armor, now stripped down to the truth beneath. "Now," Judy says, "we reach the part everyone fears. Consequences." The daughter bows her head, accepting the inevitability. "But before that," Judy adds, "there is something you need to understand." She closes the folder, hands resting atop it, grounding the moment. "This courtroom is not here to humiliate you. It's here to reveal you. And what I'm seeing now is someone who has finally stopped running." A tear slips down the daughter's face. Judy's voice softens, but it still carries the clarity of a bell. "If you learn from this, if you choose integrity over illusion, then this collapse is not your end. It's your beginning." The daughter exhales shakily, a release, a surrender, a moment of rebirth wrapped in humiliation and humanity. But Judy isn't done. She leans forward. "However, beginnings require accountability, and mine is coming next." The courtroom is quieter than it has been all day. There is no anger now, no spectacle, no rising tension, only the steady, rhythmic truth of accountability settling into place. Judge Judy steeples her fingers, letting the silence linger long enough for the defendant to truly feel it, not as punishment, but as gravity. "Ms. Halden," she begins softly, "you came into this courtroom wearing arrogance like armor." The daughter lowers her eyes. "You believed your name would protect you. You believed your father's power would rescue you, and you believed the people you hurt were inconsequential." The daughter squeezes her hands together, knuckles turning white. Judy's voice doesn't rise, it doesn't need to. "Let me teach you something your title, your upbringing, and your ego failed to give you." She leans forward just slightly. "Power's not immunity. It is responsibility." The words land with the weight of a lifetime truth, one the daughter was never taught or never willing to learn. Judy continues, "You used status as a shield. You manipulated people who trusted your professionalism. You dismissed those who didn't benefit your image." The daughter's breath shudders, guilt washing over her in waves. "But today," Judy says, "you did something more valuable than pretending to be untouchable." The courtroom waits. "You told the truth," Judy finishes, "and that takes courage." The defendant looks up, stunned. "Courage? Her?" Judy nods as if answering the unspoken question. "It is far easier to lie, far easier to hide behind excuses. But admitting your motives, your insecurities, your misuse of power, that requires confronting the person you fear most." A long pause. "Yourself." The daughter releases a trembling breath, the words hitting her deeper than any accusation could. The victim steps forward slightly, voice quiet. "I don't hate you," they say. "I just wanted you to see the damage." The daughter nods, tears slipping freely now. "I see it," she whispers, "and I'm sorry. For real. Not for the cameras, not for my father, for you." The victim offers a small, wounded smile. Not forgiveness yet, but the beginning of it. Judge Judy nods approvingly. Growth begins when we finally step outside the shadow of who we pretend to be. The daughter lets the sentence settle inside her, grounding itself like a seed that might one day become something real. But Judy's tone shifts, subtle but unmistakable. "However," she says, "insight alone is not justice. There must be consequences, ones that reflect not only what you did, but what you can still become." The daughter straightens slightly, resigned, afraid, but ready in a way she wasn't before. Judy lifts her gavel, not to strike it, but to signal that the moment is transitioning. "My ruling is prepared," she says, "and Ms. Halden, it will teach you the lesson you were never supposed to miss." A final hush falls over the courtroom. Judy raises the gavel. "Here is my decision. Be honest, after everything she admitted. Do you feel she deserves compassion now? Or are the consequences still not enough? The courtroom holds its breath as Judge Judy lifts her gavel, not to strike, but to anchor the moment. This is no longer about humiliation, no longer about arrogance or collapse. This is about justice. Steady, clear, unavoidable. Judy lowers the gavel to the bench, resting it like a symbol rather than a weapon. Ms. Halden, she begins, voice measured and unwavering, this ruling is not about your last name. It is not about your father. It is not about the cameras in this room. She pauses. It is about responsibility. The defendant wipes her cheeks, sitting straighter than before, still trembling, but no longer hiding. Judy continues, her tone even, grounded. You entered into a contract with the plaintiff. You failed to honor it. You misled them, dismissed them, and used intimidation to avoid accountability. The daughter nods once, painfully slow. Yes, I understand. And to cover your tracks, Judy says, you reached into funds that did not belong to you. Money intended for public service, not private convenience. The gallery is silent, the weight of the truth now fully realized. For these reasons, Judy says, lifting the ruling, you will provide full restitution to the plaintiff in the amount of the original contract plus damages incurred by your failure to deliver. The victim exhales, the relief washing over them like sunlight after a storm. But Judy isn't finished. As for the misuse of discretionary funds, she continues, this court is an arbitration forum. I cannot issue criminal or political penalties. The daughter closes her eyes, bracing. But I can refer the matter, Judy says, to the appropriate oversight authorities for review. A collective gasp from the gallery. The daughter's eyes snap open, fear, shame, acceptance, all flickering at once. This referral is not vindictive, Judy clarifies. It is necessary. Integrity does not bend simply because someone holds a famous last name. The daughter swallows hard. I understand, Your Honor. Judy studies her for a long, thoughtful moment. You made mistakes because you were trying to live up to an image you thought you needed to protect. But images crumble. Truth doesn't. The daughter nods, tears returning, not dramatic, but sincere. Your future, Judy continues, will not be determined by the arrogance that brought you here today, but by the humility you choose from this moment forward. The daughter whispers, thank you. Not as gratitude for leniency, but as recognition of justice finally landing where it should. Judy turns to the victim. You are owed dignity. Today, it is restored. The victim nods, eyes glistening. Thank you, Your Honor. The bailiff steps forward, signaling the conclusion of proceedings. Papers rustle, chairs shift, the room exhales. But Judy speaks one final time, not as a judge correcting behavior, but as a voice cutting through the illusions that shape the entire case. Let this be clear, she says, her tone soft but resonant. Power without integrity collapses, but accountability rebuilds. The daughter absorbs the words like a truth she will carry long after the cameras stop rolling. Judy lifts her gavel. One clean strike.